Hello and welcome to this raw, unfiltered episode where I am anchoring in my truth out loud and I am letting it flow with no script. I do have my bullet pointed notes in front of me so I stay on track, but I don't follow a script. I never have. This is a podcast episode for you, the one who is ready to stop performing and stop living scripted just to be accepted and look the part. And if abandoning self was a theme or a membership, I know that I could collect or create something for amazing people that are ready to stop abandoning themselves. And so this is real-time clarity, resistance, and reclamation all in one today. I believe that this is the tipping point that will anchor in my messaging to the world. And as you listen, ask yourself where you fit into this as well. Because again, I don't share my voice for myself. I share it for the one. I share it for the people, the person who is ready to move into their own reclamation. So I decided that what I am sharing today, I'm not posting on Facebook. I'm going to talk about it here today. I have been on a journey of healing from performance-based acceptance. And I can tell you something, it is a new thing when you are no longer abandoning yourself just to be liked, just to follow the rules, just so you don't get corrected, to avoid pain, to avoid discomfort. And what happens when you have been in performance mode for so long, it's almost like we become numb to the outcomes we keep getting. We become someone different than who we truly are wired and created to be. And even to the point where our truth feels edited, where we instead seek permission from people just to be validated, just so we avoid making mistakes, just so we don't get that feeling of, oh crap, I'm doing it wrong, right? Oh, crap, I messed up again. Or why am I being fixed? Why am I being corrected? Why is what I'm doing needing to be edited just to look a certain way? I wrote out some notes from getting some feedback, and I ripped it out of my journal because I realized that the feedback that I received caused me to start doubting myself, editing myself, watering down my message for fear of not looking a certain way online, for fear that if I showed up a certain way and speak a certain way, that people aren't going to follow me, that people it's not going to register. You must do it this way in order to look good, sound amazing. And I know that the feedback that people give, even if you do give them permission, it's not meant to deter you, but sometimes it can. And I paid attention to it because I have felt an uneasiness since getting that information. And I have felt like I have been abandoning myself just within the last couple of days, just so I can show up looking the way that I'm being told. And it's like, wait a second. First off, what you're actually seeing online is a reclamation. It's a message. It's a sound wave. It is a call to other people who are also going through the same thing to rise up and say, wait, no more. She's talking to me. She is gathering me to her ground, if you will, to her stage, her movement, That's what I have as a movement. And my voice for the longest time, if you've gone back and listened to any other podcast, I was put in the foster care system by the time I was 1. I was taught how to perform at a very young age, very small age, because the biological parents that I had, both have passed away. They chose, I believe, alcohol and I think drugs, to be honest, I believe. They chose that instead of choosing themselves and choosing to live a life of freedom and healing for their kids. And that was their choice. But their choices ended up costing their kids safety, emotional wherewithal, sound emotions, lots of things. It caused me to go into performance mode at a very small age, back as far as I can remember. I think before I was 3. Performing so I was accepted by the parents that rejected me. And I carried that for a really long time. Now, I have performed to also keep myself safe. Abuse was the number one tool that foster parents led with, including my almost adoptive parents. We didn't get adopted, thank God. I'm glad. There's a lot of uncertain chaos that was happening behind the scenes, but they hid it well. They hid it extremely well. They sure did. And even the church hid what they were doing. They knew some of the things from what I understand and was informed about. And so I was in performance mode for so long to avoid getting harmed, hurt, edited, screamed at, yelled at. I had to. And I edited myself for so long. And so as I started moving into the unfiltered version of myself that you hear before you today, and yes, I do drop some cuss words from time to time. So if you have little ones and you don't want them to hear it, disclaimer, put in your earbuds, okay? I'm not watering this down. I'm not editing myself just to sound great and fit in with the masses. God did not make me that way. In fact, far back as I can remember when I was little, I was labeled rebellious because I spoke up. I spoke against the things that were happening. Well, for one, get your hands off me, right? As a kid, right? I'm going to assert myself. I was labeled troubled by therapists and social workers because I put up a fight. But I didn't realize that that was actually a gift. I mean, I had to keep myself safe, okay? But it was actually a gift. What you're hearing before you is a gift that I have had to learn how to use, right? And thank God for healing along the way, because if I hadn't gotten healing, and if I haven't been continuing to get healing, then I would not be able to sit before you in an unedited way that actually isn't causing an internal chaos right now. I actually feel at home talking to you, which is why I created a membership for people who are the Hype and Flow Studio, who are just exactly who I talk to in my podcast. I'm talking to you, the one who is ready to stop abandoning themselves. You are in a career. You're a career professional, or maybe you run a business and you're leading your home. So you're AKA a parent. Whether you're a mom, a dad, a step parent, even a foster parent, please, foster people, listen up. Foster parents, you have a duty to have a community other than CPS and CASA, okay? You have a duty to make sure that you keep your home safe. So if you are a parent of any kind, this is for you, step parent, grandparent, maybe you're raising your kids, okay? Maybe you're raising your grandkids. You've already raised your kids, but now maybe you're raising your grandkids, whatever the case may be, okay? It can feel rebellious when you are showing up unfiltered, but it's necessary, because if I showed up to you today like how I showed up when I first showed up on the scene, beginning actually at the church I was at, when I started giving words of encouragement and edification. I was trusted. That's where it started. Then I moved on to social media. November 1st, 2014 is my first video I uploaded to Facebook from my non-Apple phone, right? But it's, and there's no way that I would be able to lead people to reclaim themselves if I showed up the way I was then, if I showed up that way now. I'm telling you, the journey that you go on is essential so that you can stop playing a part. So you can take off the masks. You can take off the airs. You can take off the voice that isn't yours so that you can show up unapologetically and powerfully in any area of your life. When you stop hiding, when you stop allowing the labels to keep you in a cage, when you take off the labels, when you get in spaces, get healing, get a good therapist, whatever you need to do. I believe in God. Yes, I believe having a relationship with him is key. He's got to know who you are. That means a conversation. And so I'm not going to shove him down your throat, but I will say, if you want to know about my God, please ask. I'll gladly tell you about him. I'm going to tell you about him anyway. Okay? It's about relationship. It's not about doing. But did you know that the very things that we get caught up in while we're growing up, we can look at God in the same fashion? For example, I was trained that God is an abusive person. I was trained that I have to perform for God in order to be loved, in order to be accepted. So now, in my walk with him, I am unlearning behaviors and things that I had to learn and pick up growing up. And I have had to learn who he is, and he doesn't care how you show up because he knows how you are anyway. He just wants you to talk to him. And there's times like, I'm not kidding. I'm a human being. God doesn't hold it against me. Thank God. I could cry when I say this, but for forgetting to say hi to him in the mornings, because like the afternoon or nighttime will come. I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord God, I'm sorry. I didn't even talk to you today. Oh my gosh. And that's it. It's a relationship. It's kind of like having a husband or a wife, right? You have a relationship, like a relationship with your best friend. That's exactly it. It's exactly like you getting on a podcast or having a telephone call with your bestie. That's just it. There's no performing with God, but there are a lot of people who do, who slap God and Jesus and religion all over it, and they put on a huge, great performance, but behind the scenes, I'm like, oh, yo, Like, who are you behind the scenes? Like, if you could strip off the fakery, please. Thank you. Okay. Showing up unfiltered and rebellious is actually one of the best things you could ever do for yourself. It can feel like a lot of the constriction that you're feeling is being stripped away and leaving. When you're healing from performance, the coffee is kicked in. When you're healing from performance and self-abandonment, anything that sounds like correction can feel like a constriction. I'm going to use this as an example. I'm realizing in my life that just because I hire mentors and coaches and they give me feedback with my permission doesn't mean that their feedback is actually going to help. And it's okay. Feedback from anybody. First off, I hope you're not just telling people what to do with their lives, unless people have hired you and are paying you, right? But even then, it's like permission-based coaching. I do it with my clients. Do I have your permission to share with you? Or I'll tell them, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I keep hearing you say the same thing. I'm just not sure if you're aware. Have you thought about saying something different? So there's a permission-based, right, coaching, acceptance, not acceptance, excuse me, coaching, right? You got to ask permission because a lot of people aren't ready to hear what you have to say. So you got to get their permission. And if they're not ready, it's okay. They will become ready. Don't force it down their throat. Sometimes feedback can feel like correction, and it can feel like you're being constricted all over again, especially when you're healing from performance-based acceptance. It's like, I really want to follow what you're telling me. However, it's actually going against the very nature. It's actually going against what I'm walking through. It's actually going against with my healing. And your feedback, if it's caused me to question myself, now I feel constricted again, and I have to put myself in a box. And I have to edit myself. And anytime I feel like I have to do that, and I feel it, you might be feeling it too. Whenever somebody, well-meaning, whatever the case may be, it can feel like, wait a second, what do you mean? I have to put myself in a box again? I have to correct this? And then you mean I'm not doing it correct? So again, healing causes us to get the filters off of our eyes and ears so we can hear correctly what's being said and spoken. But do pay attention to those things that start coming up internally, that start leading you through your reclamation. They start leading you to a place of like, wait, why does this feel familiar? And you might be feeling, like I said, you might be feeling it too, like, wait a second. And if it doesn't land, then take what does land, whatever people give you, apply what you can, and chuck the rest. And if it doesn't apply at all, just say, hey, thank you. That was a great tip. And also, it doesn't work for me because it's not always going to work, right? Plus, the exact steps that I'm doing for myself probably might not work for you because you're not me. And trying to do it the way that I do it isn't going to help you. And it's okay to do things differently. It's like a buffet, right? And so I am in a flow with how I move, with how I speak, with how I operate, with how I think, with how I act, with how I react, with how I respond. I am in a totally different flow that 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even a year ago, I'm not moving the same way that I am today. Anchoring in your flow helps you to celebrate where you're at. Anchoring in your flow means you do not apologize for questioning things. Anchoring in your flow means that you keep going. Anchoring in your flow means that you do not give into self-abandonment. Anchoring in your flow means you unapologetically do the things that I'm talking about today. Anchoring in your flow. Notice I didn't say my flow. Do you want to know what performance-based acceptance does? It causes us to do things and say yes to things that do not line up with how we are wired to do them. And it can cost us time, energy, angst. It did me. So I pray that you hear this today and that you know that your flow matters. And I'm choosing to anchor in my flow now because of where I'm at. And if anything today, I'm giving you some keys on maintaining your reclamation for you. There's a sadness that takes place in the journey. It's normal, right? Have you ever thought about how far you've come and all of a sudden you just start feeling sad, or you have this emotional weight of heaviness? It's normal. It's called grief. Grief is something that's not talked about. In fact, they don't talk about it in the church. I never heard about grief. Grief of what you've lost, grief of the pain, grief of letting go, grief of old versions of yourself no longer surfacing. Grief of relationships that you have let go. Grief of new because it's cost you the old. We don't look at that. Grief of old versions being let go of yourself. Grief, it's also old patterns that we grieve because we're no longer doing them. It can be hard. If nothing else that you walk away with this. It can be hard to recognize the new patterns. It can be hard to recognize the new way that we do things because the old way that we do things became so part of us. We became so numb to that. But it isn't until we started waking up. And today is your day to wake up, to accept the new version of you. The version of you that wants to be flowy and amazing and free and speak without holding back and not being afraid to get up and look imperfect. But those old patterns, those can weigh heavily on us. And it's the power of breaking free. Who am I speaking to today? I'm speaking to you. I know I am. I'm choosing to release today things that I used to carry. I'm choosing to release today old versions I have stepped into just to keep the peace, just to look a certain way. I'm choosing to release today thoughts, patterns, old ways of doing things. I'm choosing to release today the performance. I'm choosing to release today the edited version of myself that I had to show. I had to edit myself in church. Oh gosh, I had to edit myself everywhere. Because every time I would step into being who I am, you've seen that cartoon Aladdin, right? With Robin Williams as the main voice character. Well, you know how the cuffs get slapped on him and he has to go back in the lamp? That's exactly what it feels like when we are stuck in performance. But we're not stuck. We release that. So choose to release that today, that version of you that wants to stay edited, when the version that's actually calling out the one way deep inside of you wants to be free. And I invite you to do the same thing. And is it fearful? Absolutely. Is it terrifying? You betcha. But is it worth it? Yes. So how do you break free? Well, you stop asking for permission. Speak how you already know how to speak. Say the thing. You start small. Start by doing a bold post and leave it. Don't try to edit it. Don't change it, right? So you got to stop asking permission. And it is possible to break free and do the things when you stop asking permission. And so I help people do the thing that I'm talking about today. I help people say the thing without diluting it or dumbing it down. It's a reclamation, and it happens inside the Hype and Flow studio. It exists exactly for this reason. It exists for the business owner, the career professional, the parent who's leading their home, to help leaders stop editing themselves and lead from energy and not exhaustion. And you're not crazy. You're just done performing and you don't want to perform anymore. And so that is exactly, this today is exactly why I created the Flow, Hype and Flow Studio. It's not a content factory. It's not a strategy lab. It's a reclamation space for leaders who are done with performance masks, burnout culture, and leadership that doesn't feel like them. There's no polishing it up in here, and we anchor everything in. Because your voice doesn't need permission, it really needs a place to land. And so to close this out today, you don't need a script to speak your truth. You don't need a filter to be received. You do not need to shrink your power to be understood. Say this: today, repeat after me, today I give myself permission to stop performing. And maybe, I know I gave myself permission. This is your moment to do the same. So welcome to the flow. Welcome to your reclamation.